Okay, part two. We have established a strategy for Jennifer, or Jen, and we've got her sitting on a ride evaluator cushion to get her measurements in sitting, although we do know the evaluator was ruled out for not the correct shapes. We're going to do a simulator-based ride custom cushion. So before I get started, I want to make sure I print up my order form, make sure that we've got everything we need on our checklist, and we're going to get our linear dimensions, which are on the face sheet. It's very important that we get all the information on the order form, very important. So the number one thing that delays the completion of the orders of ride custom systems is incomplete information. So please make sure you fill out the complete order form. Quick demonstration of how those measurements go. We want to use our ML stick, which comes with the ride custom back capture, a tape measure, and most importantly, right after lunch, we recommend Altoids for your fresh breath feeling. Anybody else? Okay, all right. You'll appreciate that, right, Jim, when I really get in your face. Okay, all right, so on the order form, face sheet, it'll be asking for hip width, which is right at the trochanters, waist, which is right at the iliac crests, mid-thoracic, which is about at the xiphoid process, axilla, kind of right up in the armpits, ML, which means, or depth, AP, mid-thorax. Then we have a common reference for our heights. Go off the cushion to the top of the pelvis. Let the shoulder relax just a little bit, make clear. Again, axilla, and then top of shoulder. With those measurements taken and annotated on the order form, we're ready to move into shape capture. Now, the strategy that I'm going to use is to try to move towards a little bit more flexion in these hips, as we have her position there now. So I'm going to use a wedge under our simulator. In the order form, you'll be able to annotate that you have the simulator wedged up an inch. Put that in there. Get that ready to be pushed back into the back bag. We'll turn our pump on. We've got the back bag flattened out real nice. I've got my valve just so the bag stays malleable. I'll take this up. Put that up behind there. I'll take my simulator and literally stuff it right into that back bag. So I'll be able to capture the back corners of the simulator. The bag's getting very soft. So when I capture the bottom shape, I'm going to adjust my valve, get the bag just a little tighter. Predispose the shape a little bit into the lordosis. That feels pretty good. Okay. Now I'm going to assign projects. I've got Mom, Pam. I've got my other physical therapist, May Claire, who's going to be working with us as well too. I'm going to be in the lead on the front, capturing butt shape, leading the back control. Pam, Mom, is going to be helping with head and arms, and May Claire is going to be doing whatever else needs to be done. All right. Now, when I'm capturing people with a posterior tendency, I'm oftentimes going into the simulator flex forward to try to get the pelvis upright. We're going to do just the opposite with Jen, because Jen, we need to try to promote more of a posterior tilt. So we're going to keep the whole simulation up fairly upright here. And she is so light, I'm just going to take you right up. I want to make sure I'm leaving her just a little bit forward on the simulator. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to try to promote a little bit of a posterior tilt, if at all possible, or at least try to move the pelvis posteriorly for the shape capture. I want to make sure that I've got her legs in good alignment, medial lateral. It'd be ideal to have some foot support too. She needs to be nice and relaxed. We'll come in. Hands up on the iliac crest. And Jenn, we'll start moving you into the foam here. Just a little bit at a time. Get her at the pelvis. And we'll put May Claire's hands where we want our control. So if we're watching laterally, that looks good. I don't want May Claire lifting, just holding. A little bit of proximal thigh capture. Very little distally, a lot more proximally at the pelvis. So we're really trying to flex those hips. You want to get her down in about 3 inches in the back, so we have 1 inch of foam left underneath her. Now, what we can do is we can do a brief lift and take an eyeball the depth. That looks really, really good. We set her right down on that contour. We'll assess nice level pelvis. Trunk is influenced towards midline. Legs are in good alignment. I'm going to do one last set. Okay, now we're going to tilt the chair back in space as far as we can, because we really want gravity to help with this lordosis. Okay, this is great. That's great. Okay. Now, I need to soften the bag up a little bit. So make clear once you work the bag here. I'm going to take that both going soft. Bring your shoulders up, arms up like this. Okay. There we go. All right. A little harder now. We're adjusting the tension on the bag. I don't want to work too much. I don't want to accentuate that lordosis, right? So I'm focusing low on her left. There we go. A little too hard. Let's soften that up just a little bit. Okay. There we go. All right, now I've got her held. Jiggle her into the bag a little bit. Let's go ahead and tighten up the bag all the way now. Let's keep the shoulders up. There we go, right like that. There we go. All right. Okay, now, pelvis still level. We've seen good midline orientation. We got it pulled to hard, so we can let go of the valve now. We don't want to disturb that at all now until we've got plasters completely poured. What we want to do now is we want to slowly bring her upright and make sure things are working as we wish. So as she comes up, we've already determined that Jenn is going to need an abdominal panel. That's good, right there. Okay? Now, when we look at Jenn on this side, it looks like we're pretty opened up here, right? I want to see if we can, to test this shape, close the back angle just a little bit on the chair. This chair, fortunately, has that ability to close it some. It may be already closed. If that's the case, then we'll go ahead and just hold the chair. I'm just going to close it this way. And let's bring that wedge up and block. Can we come out? There we go. All right. There we go. I had a little bit of a wedge behind there with the bag hard. I pulled that up and just closed that hip angle some. And there we go. That with an abdominal panel I think is going to work great. All right, now, what we would do at this point, very important, is I would take a picture from the front. I would take a picture from the side. I will get my seat depth measurement. Seat depth is always measured relative to the front of the simulator. In this situation, I've got the simulator wedged right up into her knee. So I would be probably measuring this and saying decrease seat depth about 3/4 inch relative to the simulator. And that would be annotated on the order form. At this point then I'd ask for the Sharpie marker and a tape measure. First thing I want to do before I forget is to mark for an abdominal panel. So abdominal panel, I want to try to capture her ASIS. So I'm going to go down here low, I'm going to make a Sharpie mark right at her ASIS, both sides. And then I'm going to measure, so I want a 4-inch, 6-inch, or 8-inch high abdominal panel on Jen. 4 isn't going to be quite enough. I'm thinking 6. Okay? Just to try to get up and capture as much of the abdomen as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark 6 inches up on both sides to mark the height of the abdominal panel. How you doing, Jen? You all right? Okay. Then I'm going to make a line right along where her body's leaving the bag here on both sides. Trying not to mark up her pretty clothes. Okay? Then, so I've got ASIS, I've got 6 inches up. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a circumferential measurement around the abdomen. Get a close measurement, about 14.5 inches. So on the order form for the back, I'd be annotating abdominal panel as marked, medium, 14 inches across around the abdomen. Next thing I'm going to do is going to mark my other trim lines. All right, Jen, can you look forward towards me? We'll come up here. Okay, we okay, Jen? All right, we're doing great. All right, we'll mark a back height mark. I'm going to mark high on her left side for lateral trunk support height on the left. We can go a little lower on the right. Mark where the bag is leaving her body. So now I've got my, I always do a mental check. I got my pictures, I got my seat depth, I got my trim lines. I've got a good result. It's time to help her out of this thing, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to hold the legs. You guys can lean her forward a little bit, help lift her out of the bag. Yeah. I'll let you guys lead with the trunk. Are you ready, Dan?
Where is she going to
We'll
go?
go over. Why don't we go back to her chair?
Okay, here.
Just don't get under the, I'll get the legs here, okay?
3.
Up we go. Very good. All right. I'm going to leave you in your mother's capable hands. We're going to press on over here. All right. Now, what I want to make sure we've accomplished here is that we've got a good butt shape. And Jen, nice butt shape. You make a great first impression. All right. I'll go to the low point of her ischial tuberosity. And we'll see I've got probably about 1 3/4 inches of foam left underneath her, and that's fine. I want to have at least 1 inch, no more than 2 inches. So I get a good impression of her buttocks. I've got a good seat to back transition. I've got a few folds here, but that's not a big deal as long as my lateral contours are really nice. Got a nice flow of my contours on the key points of control, low right and high left. And I've got my key marks. So the next thing I'm going to do then, I'm going to very carefully remove my blue foam. I've already got my tarp down on the floor. Going to get my bucket. Get a box of plaster. I'm going to tilt all the way back. It's time to throw some plaster. All right, now it's important. Right now, we've got her bottom shape referenced to the bottom of the simulator pan. Now we've got her back shape. We're going to put plaster over the back and extend that plaster down into the pan. So we'll have The bottom shape, the blue foam shape, reference to the bottom of the pan, and the back shape, referenced to the bottom of the pan. No, go ahead and do it. Okay. All right. We'll put some gloves on. We'll line everything up right along the front here. And the back kits have pre-cut splinting material. Put all 5 thicknesses in, dip it in, squeeze a little bit of the moisture out so it's just dripping just a little bit. And I forgot to do something. Make clear if you'll pull the lid off of that. I'm going to darken, I'm going to reinforce my trim line marks. I'm going to project my height, my bottom trunk support heights into the shape. Sharpie marker is the only marker we have found that transfers nicely onto the plaster. Okay. Now, I'm going to go up and capture just an inch or 2 above the trim line. And put it right down into the bottom of the pan. And rub it in. Use all 5 thicknesses. And just keep on going. Let's take a little break.